All right, welcome into the Auburn Live show, the Modcast edition. If you're not a member of auburnlive.com, please go subscribe. 50% off right now. You never know when they're going to pop these flash sales up. So if you see it, go take advantage. 50% off auburnlive.com. It's going to be a good time to do it. There's going to be a lot happening with Auburn football over the next couple of months. And of course, basketball gets going in October, November, in a month. Basketball starts in a month. So just go subscribe to auburnlive.com. We would appreciate it. All right, got the whole crew here. Jeffrey Lee, Cole Pinkston, Keith Niebuhr. How is everybody doing on this? We record on Thursday mornings. I guess I can just let that out of the bag. How's everybody doing on this Thursday morning?
I'm relieved, man. And I'm sure all of us are, right? That 5-game homestand is over.
That was weird. There was a lot of home games.
It was too much. I'm too old for that.
I give fans a lot of credit. I honestly thought there'd be a little fatigue, and really, like Missouri showed up better than I thought. LSU was a great atmosphere. I mean, they really did. They really showed up 5 weeks in a row.
Well, Saturday night was fantastic. It was everything you thought it would be.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you, Jeffrey. I'm looking forward to the away game.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, it's a tough task. First road game of the year. Robbie's first road start of his career against number 2 Georgia.
How mundane is our attitudes considering Auburn, Georgia is Saturday at 2:30 on the CBS network?
Yeah. It's just,
and we're like, I'm ready for a bye week.
yeah, I really am ready for the bye week. It's just there's too much going on. It's not just the team struggling. It's the team struggling. A coaching change is going to happen. AD search is going on. There's just so much going on that it's like the thought about on the field is just part of the equation.
Yeah.
Everything is in limbo, right? I thought it was fair of you yesterday, Justin, just like you said, to start the conversation of what could potentially happen here. And if that's the case, and we can't find anybody that doesn't believe that there's going to be a coaching change, I can't, then it's almost a moot point of the on-the-field products, the recruiting boards, and all of that, because in the end, it's just going to be a big reset if, in fact, a change does occur.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's exactly right. So it's just kind of this weird space we're in. I don't really remember, obviously I've only been in this a relatively short period of time covering. I don't know that there's been a time. I mean, think back to Chizik when 2012 was imploding. He finished the season just getting crushed, but he finished the season, and you just knew there was a change going to be made after the year. I guess it's just you had Malzahn for such a long period of time that in that span of midseason, when midseason changes started to happen, Auburn wasn't in the market for one, and now they are. And now you're just openly talking about it. I mean, it's just so different,
right?
Well, especially since you make a great point, Justin. Especially since there's already been a handful of firings already this season, which we used to never see this early in the year. I mean, the guy at Wisconsin's got Paul Chris had a pretty good record there. Obviously the recruiting had dipped in recent years, but Carl Durrell already getting fired at Colorado. It used to be, you're right. It used to be people would wait till the end of the year. It didn't matter if you were just getting slaughtered left and right. The only way usually they would fire you is if there was other stuff going on and they had to get rid of you during the season. And now schools are just saying, you know what, let's just bite the pill right now. Let's just take our medicine and get this search started and get everything kind of moving in that direction so it doesn't all happen haphazardly and you only have a couple, 7 to 14 days really to get it all done. Now you can get all your ducks in a row and all that, but it's crazy right now. It is. And maybe that's why maybe Brandon Council felt sorry for everybody when he ran his mouth a little bit yesterday.
I joked with somebody.
Maybe he wanted to spice things up a little bit.
I joked with somebody, and this is a joke, just relax. But I was like, Brandon just must really not like Brian Harsin. He's just like, how do I speed this process up?
Sabotage.
No, but that was what a You brought it up, Keith, but my gosh, Brandon Council, that's kind of how he is. Like, I remember him in interviews in the past, and he's a little, a little confident and a little, he likes to talk a little bit. I mean, it's just kind of, I'm not surprised he said something like that. He's not a trash talker, but when he said that, I was like, oh my gosh, man.
I think his confidence is a big reason why he continued to win the starting job, even when people were like, surely, he's not going to win it again. He did, because he was confident in practice, and he just has that attitude about him, and that's why he wins. That's why he wins the starting job. He's doing really good at center, at least to start with. So maybe that's his place. But
was it against Penn State when that attitude got the best of him?
Oh yeah, it was.
Yeah, Cole, you watch those games a lot closer than I do. And I've seen not just a personal foul penalty from Council. I've seen a couple other times where he probably could have gotten one. And he's when it gets chippy down there, I usually see his number somewhere near where the yelling and screaming is going on. And maybe that's not a bad thing.
He has been more aggressive lately, just in general, before, after the whistle, whatever you want to call it. Both. Probably not the best way to be, but I think it has a lot to do with his conditioning, because when we saw him in fall camp, I thought he was moving a little bit slow. I thought he was, breathing hard all the time, and now he seems to be in better condition, and he's got that attitude back, and that always helps. So I think he needs to calm down a little bit after the whistle, and do it all before the whistle. That's where you have the free reign to do whatever you want to do to your opponent. Don't do it after the whistle. That would be my only advice to Brandon.
Hey, well, and choose your words carefully. I mean, there's no excuse for him to come out and say what he did. None. That was stupid.
Well, I find it interesting that he was chosen to speak.
And that won't happen again.
He was the honorary captain last week, if I'm not mistaken.
Or is he this week?
Or is it this week? I saw it somewhere. Yeah.
It's like, I get the confidence, man, but that's just not. I'm just not a big subscriber to that, especially when you're a big underdog. There's no reason to go out there and say something like, if we keep them out of the third down packages, we can demolish them.
Of all the positions at Auburn talking shit, it's the offensive line.
Are you kidding me? Like Tank Bigsby is getting hit as soon as he gets the ball every game, and you're going to talk about having the capability of demolishing anybody, and it's just a dumb thing to say, man. Especially being the underdog, just play it up, man. Georgia's amazing,
right?
We're going to do the best we can,
Yeah.
You don't come on talking about the SWAT team. We're going to be the SWAT team. We're going to come in quietly, all that shit. That was ridiculous.
Talk about poking the bear. He took the branding iron out of the coals, walked over there and just
against the team that just almost lost. And certainly Kirby Smart's got their attention after that loss and this week. Like, they're already going to be on height.
Right. As if they couldn't be more motivated.
Yeah, it's just a dumb. I mean, like, Georgia's good. It's not like Brandon's words are going to affect Auburn's ability to win. Auburn's a 30-point underdog, but it's just a principle thing. Get out there and you have a chance to speak to the media as a sixth-year senior to come out there and say something like that.
Isn't he a seventh-year senior?
Yeah, he might be. I guess
he's on that J. Lee track.
Yeah.
Red shirt, medical red shirt.
Same, Jeffrey. Same.
Yeah, little Van Wilder.
But look, you don't poke the bear, right? You hope that a team like Georgia sleepwalks into the game, but now you've awoken them, and that's not good.
Yeah, and have that attitude. If your team has that attitude, then talk that junk at practice. That's fine. Walk in there with the attitude of, like, we're going to beat their ass, but to come out and say it, that does zero good. That does nothing for you at all. It just puts more pressure on you, puts more of a target on your back. It's just
yes, it's like the Vandy guy saying, "Bama, you're next," after they won a game that
same thing.
like Jeff and Cole walking into a bar 15 years ago with a bunch of Playboy playmates saying, "I'll take her and I'll take her." They walk out together and say, "Let's go to Waffle House and get some scrambled eggs."
We're headed to Wesley's.
Yeah, it was.
You guys mentioned, Cole. You mentioned something interesting. You said that Council didn't look like he was physically. What were you saying about?
Well, he was coming off of an injury where he had that boot on his left or right leg. I can't remember. And he just looked a little bit out of shape just in fall camp practices to me.
You know, all the heat that Auburn's taken, and Justin, I wrote this down. I wanted to ask you this week. All the heat that the staff is taking for this stretch of second half misery of games dating back to what the Ole Miss game last year, where they haven't been able to produce any points and against Power 5 teams. And so my question to you, Justin, is, we hear whenever there's a new strength staff at a school that they're always going to be better than the old staff. And right now, the coaching staff the coaches are getting a lot of heat for this, and deservedly so. But does the strength staff, are they, you get where I'm going here? Like, how accountable are they right now for the fact that this has not only not been a second half team since the middle of last season, they've been the opposite of that. And I'm wondering if they're kind of, again, we're not pointing fingers here, but I guess we sort of are, because how is this happening week in a week? Is it all play calling? Is it all execution? Is it a combination of things, including they're just not in as good a shape as they need to be, or maybe used to be?
I don't really think that's the case.
Okay.
I mean, I think it's a fair question.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw it out there.
I think it's a fair question. I mean, I've thought about it, but I don't see they're not like a different team in terms of they're just giving up, getting their ass kicked in the second half. Like, they're just dog tired. It's not really that. It's literally offensive execution.
Other than the Penn State game, they did look a little. I thought they looked a little down.
But the defense, if you go back, defense kept them in South Carolina. Defense kept them in Alabama as long as they could. It literally is just the offensive execution that is just mind blowing. It's actually really not. The more I thought about it, by the way, Auburn can't run the football consistently. Okay, even going back to last year, if you can't run the ball consistently, that puts so much pressure on the ability to make big plays in the passing game, which Auburn's never been that great at. And so we can't run the ball consistently. So what happens is, in the first half of these games, whether it's Bo Nix or Robbie Ashford, you create some explosive plays. Maybe it's scrambling, you catch the defense off guard, whatever. You create some plays. Well, we all know that's not sustainable. Like, your offense can't be big plays, passing game, and no run game, no consistency in the passing game, just big explosive plays. Like, that's not a sustainable thing. So the big plays happen. Cool, great. They produce some points. They produce some yards. But at some point, the defense is going to adjust. At some point, your execution is going to drop off, and you're going to miss some passes. You're going to miss blocks. It's going to go like this. And then you can't run the ball. So then when those don't happen, you go to running the ball, you can't. You can't do it consistently. And so just like that, your offense goes from, you think you're doing these great things, and it looks like nothing. When the reality, like I was telling people at halftime of LSU, I'm like, just watch. I'm like, you could just look at the stats and go, Auburn's got 17 points, but look at the big plays. Look at how they're happening. They're actually trailing off towards halftime. You could see the big plays were less. Robbie Ashford's big passing plays had become less as it got close to halftime. You look at the rushing yards, they're not there. It's being hidden because Auburn hit some big passing plays. You can just see it coming. And as soon as the second half comes, they adjust. They don't allow big plays. You still can't run the ball consistently. And there you go. You can't make third downs, and in the second half it looks like a disaster. I mean, it's really not – it's not rocket science in terms of why it's happening. And if you're Auburn, we keep asking Brian Harsin, why is it happening, or fix it. I don't know what he can do to fix it unless they can all of a sudden start to run the football, which can allow them to do different things. If they can't do that, when teams have 8 men in the box and they know what's coming, if they can't run the football – then this is just going to continue. It's going to continue. There's not a whole lot the staff could. It's still their fault. It's still scheming. Like third down conversions. That's ridiculous. I mean, some of the third down stats in the second half are insane. They're converting 19% on third down in this stretch of ball games we're talking about. That's scheming. You have a 3rd and 5. Can you just dial up a play, execute it, and convert a third down? Like that stuff. But consistently, it's not really going to change unless they get a personnel change.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I've brought this up before, but when you watch that 2012 team, you knew every single time the offense hit the field, they were not about to do anything. They were about to go 3 and out. Very rarely would they sustain a drive in that year. I'm talking about every game. Games that they should have won, games that they probably had better talent than the other team. But you look at this team, and they can move the ball at times where it doesn't seem so dry on offense, where they actually do sustain drives at times. It does go off in the second half, like you're saying, but it is turnovers. To me, that's the one thing that stops them. And then you got Honors Carlson missing a few field goals, which is who would have thought that? That's the crazy thing to me. And he's missed some field goals in the second half and just, ruined what could have been a point scoring drive for Auburn. And then the momentum, you can just feel it shift back the other way when that happens. You can feel the momentum shift when they get the turnovers. You can feel it, especially in the stadium. And it's just, that's kind of what the problem has been, in my opinion, from studying it really closely. But the offense, they still have success in the second half, whereas maybe the 2012 team was not at all. That's what my observation has been on it, and it's interesting to me.
Yeah, turnovers are part of it. I mean, that doesn't help. I mean, I think let's see, we had 18 games under Harsin. They've turned the ball over 14 times. In 14 games of the 18 under Harsin, they've turned it over. I think they've had 5 multi-turnover games in only three or 4 games where they haven't turned it over. So it's the turnovers has become an absolute trend under Brian Harsin. That doesn't help. You can't overcome that. Like college football is crazy. I mean, you could sometimes overcome. I mean, look, Auburn was in that game with 4. They were -4 at one point on the turnover margin, and still with a chance to win the game. But when your offense is the way Auburn's is, it makes the margin so freaking narrow, if not impossible, to overcome when you do that. But it's just again, the second half stuff is, I mean, you can basically just predict it. Now Georgia might be different because who knows? It might be 31-0 at halftime, and Georgia might call off the dogs to some degree in the second half, and you might create some plays. But in competitive games where you're trying to win, is when all those bad stretches were happening. And it's just, I go back to, if teams start to adjust to your pass game, okay, well, we can go to the run game. Or if teams adjust to your run game, okay, we can go to a pass. Auburn doesn't have any of that. So as soon as the team adjusts to the one thing you're doing, or they got a couple of big plays in the passing game, whatever they come up with, they adjust to it. That's it. That's over with.
I don't know if y'all heard the LSU DB who said, yeah, they ran that play a bunch of times. That's why I jumped that play.
Yeah, Greg Brooks.
Yeah, spacing was the concept. I've looked at it a bunch of times, and I had it counted 8 times in the game that they ran it. And 8 of those times, 6 they completed. But, if you've seen it that many times on defense, eventually they're gonna figure it out.
Yeah, so, they ate him up with that.
They did.
Little hook route, little curl route.
Yeah, little two hitches, and then you got a flat route going out there, and they hit the flat route, they hit the hitch, they hit every route on that play, at least twice. They went to the hitch about 4 times, and that last time, the DB was sitting there waiting on it. He'd seen it 100 times already, basically, and he'd seen it on film beforehand. So that's that's one of the things in the second half. Maybe they're not adjusting, and maybe they're not changing many play calls, and the defense is adjusting and saying, okay, we've seen that. We're ready for it next time. Hey, they've run it 8 times.
What I took away from that quote was it was Greg Brooks Jr.
Yeah, Greg Brooks Jr.
That's when I realized how old I am. Keith, were you around for Greg Brooks' recruitment?
I wasn't, no.
Dre Kirkpatrick Jr. is now a top recruit.
I was going to ask Cole this. With Ashford, it did seem like, did you think the offense was opened up a little more last week? In other words, Robbie Ashford with an extra week, they were able to do some more things. Are we going to see a more expansion of that this week?
I think they opened it up in the regard that they went shotgun probably 85% of the time, which I don't think Ashford did well under center. And obviously the run game's not doing well under center. So they open it up in that regard. When we're talking about them running the same play over and over, that's where they go, okay, maybe this is what Ashford can do, and we probably shouldn't go past this. That's what I got from. And that wasn't the only play they ran multiple times. They ran a couple of other concepts more than 3 or 4 times. So really, the second half, I mean, I counted the same 3 concepts over and over, passing routes. Just maybe they thought, hey, this is what Ashford can do. Let's not push it. Let's not push it. If he's
I don't know how much I don't know how much I fault. So you have Robbie Ashford, who's still learning the position and learning the playbook, and you're trying to figure out what he's comfortable with. You know, if there's concepts or plays that he's comfortable with and they've worked during the game, you know, you would go back to things you do. I mean, to me, you would like more of a variety. Yes, you would love to have Robbie Ashford know a ton of different things and be able to execute a ton of different things really well. That's ideal, right? But given the situation they're in, it's kind of not where they're at. So did they call it too many times? Maybe. I don't know. Like, I sort of give credit to Greg Brooks for reading it and making a freaking play. And maybe that's where Robbie Ashford or something just goes, hey, maybe that's something where they need to say, hey, as we run these plays more often, Robbie, you need to be watching. And if, you know, I don't know, maybe Robbie Robbie stared the receiver down. He stared at Quinn Moore. He made it. Greg Brooks read it, but it didn't help that he stared at Quinn Moore the whole time.
Yeah. Well, he'd hit him the last 3 times.
He's already crashing up. Like, he was already moving up. So I don't fault the play call all that much. So, like, the comment kind of made it sound like the coaches are idiots or something. I don't take it that way. I think it's something where, you know, Auburn's trying to call the plays that are good for Robbie and have been successful. Yes. To me, that's kind of one on Robbie. He stared the receiver down, and he should have gone somewhere else.
He also threw it behind him.
A little bit.
A lot of people don't really see that, but I watched the sky cam. That's the one I was watching, the sky cam, and it's got the back view. And he threw it behind Moore when Moore was drifting the other way. And you know, if he puts it in front of him or on his body, it's probably not an interception. It's probably a catch. So that's another thing. But again, you know, I don't want to take anything away from Brooks because he did make a good play on that.
Great play, man. Yeah. That was a really great play. What else stood out about this LSU game? I mean, defense played well. I mean, last 2 games, defense has forced, I don't remember, I looked it up, but a lot of punts. I mean, they've basically done their job. And, I mean, to hold LSU, now there were some drops in that game. Jaden Daniels wasn't particularly accurate.
Yeah.
But regardless, you know, bad numbers for LSU's quarterbacks. I mean, they didn't even throw for 100 yards. LSU threw for 5 yards in the second half or fourth quarter.
5 yards? I didn't realize that.
LSU, I don't have my stats in front of me. They threw for 5 yards in the second half. I'm going to make sure I've got this right because I've got it right here in front of me. Second half, passing yards. LSU 2 for 9 passing in the second half for 5 yards.
Jeez.
Auburn lost that football game.
I'll tell you what stood out to me. That's not the same LSU team we're used to seeing.
No.
I mean, I can't remember a group of receivers at LSU as mediocre, as pedestrian as that group.
Maybe Quinn Moore was right.
Yeah, exactly.
He wasn't. Butte, I don't know what's going on with Butte. I mean, something's going on with him. He's talented. He's
looks like he doesn't care out there. To be honest with
you. It's weird. But to hold a team to 5 passing yards in this day and age in college football, I don't even know how that's remotely possible to have 5 yards passing and a half. But Auburn and LSU managed to do it, and Auburn loses that football game. What else? Anything else just jump out about how that game played out that surprised you? Or
Marcus Bragg. I thought Marcus Bragg played well. I thought Colby Wooden finally played up to his standard. I mean, they're going to have to without Leota. They have got to figure it out there because that is a big loss. And when I saw him, I was standing down there in the end zone, and Leota walks by me with that sling on. I was like, "Oh no, that's not good. That is not good." So I would not be surprised to see Colby Wooden, you know, used as more of a pass rusher now that they don't have Leota. Obviously, we still didn't see a lot of Dylan Brooks, so I don't think I would expect him.
he's clearly not ready. I mean, they're clearly not ready to put him out there for any extended period of time.
Pass rush is still pretty good. It was still pretty good.
Dylan Brooks just ran by my window.
Yeah,
He's so thin, man. He is so
Joko
lanky.
Willis too. Joko Willis
Great
too.
day.
yeah, that's the thing with Dylan. I think that's what they're worried about. He can play a few snaps, but he's just he's not prepared to go in there at the point of attack and be a physical guy. That's just not a good.
So do you expect Colby to slide out more? Cole?
The depth chart. I mean, the depth chart hinted at that. I mean, the depth chart we got on Monday had Colby Wooden at defensive end, had Jason Jones and Marcus Harris in the middle, and Derek Hall at edge. Now, Colby said on Wednesday they'll still play a lot of their traditional 3-4. But yeah, there's no doubt it's going to change where Colby's. I mean, they're going to have to. They just don't. Marcus Bragg is okay. Marcus Bragg's fine. He doesn't have anywhere close to the explosiveness that Eku has. I mean, that Marcus is better at the point of attack, but he doesn't have the speed. So they're going to have to figure that out.
Well, he was going against a freshman tackle too. And he didn't show me any moves or anything. He just bull rushed the guy and ended up in the backfield a couple times because I guess they were trying to make a point like, Jaden, you need to stand in there and actually throw it instead of just running every time. So that helped him out a lot. Georgia's not going to be the same. Their offensive line's a lot better at the tackles. So, I'm curious to see how he handles that, but it would only make sense that Colby Wooden goes to edge and helps out there and does both. I mean, he should never leave the game, really, ideally. And, I actually think that him playing edge could maybe unleash a little something from him. Sometimes he looks like he's taken out of the play when he's having to go against double teams because it's not really – I don't think it's really what he should be doing.
I agree.
So put him at edge and see what happens. I mean, he's a pretty good pass rusher.
I agree with that comment. He's a fantastic player and makes a bunch of plays. There are times, though, Cole, I agree, where what is he about? I mean, he's 290-ish, whatever. There's times where I feel like he gets caught up in double teams or moved a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe just he's not that traditional big lower body, hard to move. He's just really athletic in that role, and which makes him good. But there are times. So I am curious to see how he does at it makes me think of it's funny that it's going to the Georgia game. It makes me think of back in it's a little different, but I think it was 2007, Auburn moved Quentin Groves to linebacker that game. They moved him to outside linebacker a little bit, and he started standing up and just trying to get more pass rush. Of course, Auburn got smoked in that game. That was the blackout game.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting. That'd be cool to see maybe Colby Wooden at defensive end. Although Jason Jones hasn't been that's kind of been my fear with him. He's a big guy, but he has not been anything special. He's not. He's maybe hard to move a little bit sometimes, but he's not. He doesn't do a whole lot for me. So I don't know how long you can just leave him in there and hope to not get run on.
Yep.
How about the secondary, man? You talk about LSU being 2 of 9 for 5 yards in the second half. The secondary played fairly well, did they not?
Yeah, I think they played well all year.
Man,
First couple games was like, even Harsin came out was like, yeah, we need a little bit more. Stuff's too easy in those first 2 games. Both those guys completed a lot of passes. I think both those quarterbacks completed 20-plus passes. But past few games have been really good. DJ James getting better. And then, of course, Jalen and Nehemiah are pretty good. You've seen a lot more Kaufman, a little bit less Caden Bridges. So they seem to be finding their groove a little bit.
A little rotation.
Well, that came from Keontae Scott. They said, okay, that guy's got to be on the field. So let's put Kaufman back at safety, and Scott, you'll play nickel. And that's how they're handling that right now.
Speaking of Scott, you mentioned Carlson missing his field goals. How many points did the special teams cost Auburn the other night?
Yeah, not great. I mean.
Oh man, Scott! And I had just walked out of the media room and was standing beside and below the cheerleaders or below the student section, looking down the east sideline, looking down the LSU sideline, and that punt was coming right at me. Right, it's kind of, and I saw Keontae sprinting, and I was thinking, Peter, do not try to catch that football. It was high, dude. And he was on a dead sprint. And that's when it was that was ball game for me.
He's got a lot of confidence as a punt returner, and as a young punt returner, that's probably not the best thing sometimes. And I was with you. I was standing there going, please don't try to catch that.
Oh, it was, yeah, I was thinking, I felt like I've talked about this earlier on the show. I don't know which show it was, but it was the call-in show, I believe. What's today, Tuesday? I don't even know what today is. Today's Thursday. Yeah. But so you had that turnover, which resulted in a touchdown.
Yeah.
No. So Auburn actually got forced.
Yeah, they got the ball back, didn't they?
Ball back, yeah.
That's right.
Auburn turned around and forced a fumble.
That's right. My fault.
They got the ball back, and it was that. I got to tell you, that's when y'all were thinking about that muff punt, and all I can think about from that game was Brian Kelly's making how much money, and they got after that muff punt, they got 5.5, 6 yards on first down. There's 5 minutes left in the game. I think I told Cole this. They snapped the next play with 22 seconds left on the play clock, at a point where LSU should have been trying to run the clock down,
shorten the game.
Yeah, they like hurriedly. They hurried it a little bit, and it ended up being a disaster. The guy fumbles, and Auburn gets it back, and it almost cost LSU the game. So all I can think about is, boy, that Brian Kelly. I mean, this is supposed to be one of the geniuses of the sport here. And
so Auburn gets the ball back, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, hell, I'm going to walk to the other end of the end zone and watch this drive. Like, this could be the one, right? Yeah. This is it right here. Before I could even get down there, wasn't that the pick?
Yeah, I think so.
Pick six.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I just turned right around and walked back to the media room.
It would have been a pick six, but Robbie Ashford.
Oh, he decked his ass. That's right.
No. It was Zaire, wasn't it? Oh, no, you're talking. Okay, never mind. I know what
there were so many turnovers. Yeah, I remember Zaire.
You lose at a certain point. You lose track of them. But
right.
Yeah,
I was thinking of the jet sweep or more interception.
And by the way, on that, I don't know if you rewatched it or maybe you saw it in real time. I didn't see it in real time from the press box, but rewatching it, dude, that tackle Robbie had, he put that dude's helmet in the ground. That guy came up with a chunk
turf
in his helmet. I give Robbie credit. He was pissed about that one.
How many did he end up throwing for? How many yards did Robbie end up passing for?
340. Hold on, I got it right here.
I mean, we can agree while Cole's looking that up. We can agree he's the guy you can move forward, right?
Say that again, Keith.
337.
We can agree Robbie's the guy you got to go with moving forward.
Yeah.
I mean, is it even a question anymore?
Well, that's funny because I think last week or the week before, I thought and I asked this question. I don't know if it was here or elsewhere. Who gives you a better chance to win? Is it T.J. Finley? And at that point, I think at that point we were thinking Finley would give Auburn the best chance to win. I don't believe that anymore. And listen, if I were to say that it took T.J. Finley that gave Auburn the best chance to win, something was wrong because I've said from the get-go he ain't the guy. No disrespect to him personally.
I have a sneaking suspicion when Finley gets healthy again, we are going to see both of them. I have nothing to back that up.
At this point, I don't really care.
Hey, you want to talk about prospects?
Yes. Dynamite drop in there, Justin.
Thanks.
Oh, my goodness. Prize Picks. Cole got in last week, man. Hit big, didn't you, big dog?
I did. Sure did.
Did you go 3 for 3 on your picks?
Yeah, I went 3 for. You got the option on there. You can do where you get 2 out of 3. It's like a lesser win,
right?
But you can choose that option. I went for it all. I did the 3. You got to hit all 3, and it's a bigger win. And I hit all 3. So
I think it's 5-1 payout on the 3, and then on a 2, it's like 2.5 maybe.
I think so.
But if you've been under a rock in the last few weeks, man, we've been playing Prize Picks, sponsoring the show. We appreciate them for sure. Let me get my helmet, man. Prize Picks. Prize Picks. It's really fun, dude. A lot of fun. Prize Picks. It's a daily fantasy pick 'em. You're picking against the numbers, and you're basically saying just more or less. They give you a number. Tank Bigsby last week, his rushing total was 64.5. And we all took less, except for Keith.
Yeah.
So Keith was our lone loser.
He
I
had,
hear
he
that a
had
lot.
45 yards, which was about what he had the week before.
45 yards, which is about what he's been averaging, right?
Yep. Besides your 2 other games.
Yeah. But, hey, Prospects is the best way to have action on the game in states like Kentucky, Alabama, Florida, Texas, Georgia, over 70% of the U.S., even in Canada, man. Even in Canada,
Hey,
You pick 2 to 5 players, and if they score more or less, you pick more or less, and if they hit, man, you win a percentage. You can win up to 10 times your money on any entry. And Prospects right now has a big promotion going with Auburn Live. Right now they will match up to 100%, up to $100 deposit. So get on there, hit that War Eagle promo code, all caps, one word, War Eagle. They will match you up to $100, 100%. Deposit $100, they'll make it $2. A lot of fun. This week, they have yet to set the over or the more or less on any Auburn games. But I liked we got Daniel Carlson. Speaking of unders, let's go to Daniel, the guy who's playing for the Las Vegas. Is it Las Vegas now?
yeah.
Las Vegas Raiders. He will play on Monday Night Football against Patrick Mahomes and the KC Chiefs.
Are you going to
This one. I'm playing this pick because right now they've got Carlson more or less 1.5 field goals on Monday Night Football. So is he going to kick 1, 0, or will he kick 2 or more?
Yeah, he's been on my fantasy team this year, and let me just tell you, he's been getting me some points. So it may not be a bad bet to go more here.
You know there's going to be a shootout, right?
Yeah,
I mean, any game with KC is a shootout.
sure.
I think more. I think he's going to kick at least 2.
I don't think the Raiders have the star power offense to hang with them, so they're probably going to have to kick a few field goals, right?
Well, as long as they're not going for it, inside the field goal range.
Like on 4th and 10, like going for it on 4th and 10 from midfield.
Also, since we're fresh off of a Jaden Daniels passing performance, speaking of which we were talking about earlier, his 5 yards in the second half, and then they even brought in old Messingberger, or what's his name? Messinghouse?
Nussmeyer.
That's what I said. Jaden Daniels. Okay, LSU, Tennessee this weekend. Look, I think Tennessee will blow them out. What's the line on that, Zach, in the back? Any idea? The Jaden Daniels passing yardage against Tennessee, 219.5.
Seems like you could probably take the less on that.
I don't think he can. Yeah.
Tennessee -3 from Zach.
Really?
It's not great. I mean, they're all.
Is that game in Baton Rouge?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 11 a.m. Tennessee's
LSU's.
defense, it gets overlooked a little bit. Their defense is not great.
Okay.
Actually, I don't know if y'all saw my board post on the corner. I took LSU in an upset. I pick an upset every week, and that was mine this week. So I'm trying not to use any rhyme or reason. If you use rhyme and reason with that these days, I think you're going to lose. I'm trying to just go off the wall here with upsets.
Is Alabama a heavy favorite? I think I saw somewhere it was like 24 over A&M.
They should be.
Boy, A&M is struggling, son.
That feels like the biggest revenge game ever, doesn't it?
Well, there was, all that off-season hype was just like the story of the summer, and then now we get to the game and A&M struggling. It's a 24-point line, and it's like, and Jimbo Fisher's out here saying good things about Nick Saban this week. I was like, what a coward. He's out here this week going, hey, Nick's a great coach, I'm like, dude, 2-3 months ago, you were like, this dude, dig into his past. Come this week, Jimbo's like, great coach, man, but just one of the greatest ever,
Respect.
Hey, and you mentioned Kayshawn Boutte. Is that his name?
Yeah,
Might be Butte, but
Hey, he got 3.5 receptions set for Tennessee, and with Justin saying that he's very lackadaisical, right? Very nonchalant. I think I'm going to take the less than that. Less than 3.5 receptions. Malik Neighbors is the go-to, right?
Yeah, right now.
Jaden Daniels threw for 80 yards against Auburn this week.
That was weird, man. Watching the sitting up in the press box, you could see like he was just off, and his receivers dropped. They probably dropped 4 or 5 passes.
They did have some drops.
But he's just a little off. Everyone's just a little off. I don't know what was going on with them.
Dude, Hendon Hooker, 295.5 passing yards against LSU.
Yeah, he's phenomenal.
I mean, hell, if Robbie Ashford threw for more than 300.
Do you know who Jaden Daniels targeted the most against Auburn?
Who?
Freshman tight end Mason Taylor had 7 targets.
Mason Taylor, yeah. He's been a good player. But even he had a couple drops.
Yep.
Can I say something about
Son
him?
of Keith, you should know that.
What's that?
Mason Taylor, son of
Jason Taylor. And also I think his mom is Zach, what was the guy's name? The great linebacker for the Dolphins?
Zach Taylor?
Thomas.
Zach Thomas.
I believe his mom is Zach Thomas's sister.
What? No wonder he's a freaking good athlete.
No doubt.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, speaking of, is it Hendon Hooker or Herndon Hooker? I always get it wrong. Hendon. He attended multiple Auburn games as a recruit and really wanted Auburn to offer. And I'm pretty sure that offer never came, but he used to stand in the end zone with me before the game. And he was just this skinny little guy, man, like a lot of them are at that age. And the guy's, he keeps playing like he's playing. And I don't see how they keep him out of New York, to be honest with you, for this.
Yeah.
I mean, the stats are just, you can't ignore the stats, really.
Sure.
And by the way, there's a couple quarterbacks out on the West Coast that may end up there as well before all is said and done. I think Caleb Williams and that guy Bo Nix has actually had a pretty doggone good 4-game stretch after getting the doors blown off by Georgia in week 1.
It's amazing what happens when you have an offensive line.
Well, he's only been sacked once this year.
Oh, it's the difference. I mean, you look at his sack, his pressure percentage against what Auburn quarterbacks are giving. It's all the difference in the world. It's all the difference in the world, man. I was trying to look up Carlson, by the way. He's 12 for 12 this year. I was trying to go back because I thought I had seen a stat that he's made like.
I think it's 30 in a row, Justin.
Yeah, crazy stat. I didn't want to. Whatever. I feel like
oh man, last time we talked about him, was it Daniel or Anders who had hit the most consecutive extra points, and then they talked about?
I don't know.
Well, it was Auburn as a program had set the national record for most PATs made in a row, and I think they broke the record and then missed the very next one or something like that.
Yeah, I remember that. It was a couple years back, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Daniel's been 12 for 12 this year, 40 of 43 last year, 33 of 35 the year before. I mean, his last 2.5 seasons, he's 94, 93, and 100%. That's just –
and we talk about Auburn not having a lot of difference makers in the NFL right now, but you could have 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 all-pros now, guys that are Auburn alums this year, which is pretty incredible. If Daniel keeps it up, obviously there's a long way to go. But when you talk about the measurements early in the season, Mel Dean, Jonathan Jones, Daniel Carlson, and then obviously Carlton Davis is as well respected as any of those guys.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to finish up my prize picks here.
Sure. Yeah.
Jaden Daniels, more or less 219.5 passing yards. We're going less. Hendon Hooker, we're going to play Hendon here. He's got 37.5 rushing yards. Is he a runner? Is he a track star?
He's athletic.
Not particularly.
Thanks for getting that, Cole.
I did. I got it.
Okay, I'm going less. And then I'm taking more. Daniel Carlson, 1.5 field goals on Monday Night Football. Power play. You must hit 3 out of 3. 3, if I hit it 5 times, son.
I'm going to go more on Hooker, Jeffrey.
Okay, you play that.
I don't think I'm going to play it, but I'm going more.
Jeffrey, I'm going more on Jaden Daniels too, because I don't.
Great day in the morning.
I don't think LSU. I don't think they got too much of a running game. It all comes from him.
It does.
And so I think you're going to probably see him get a few more passing yards this week.
Okay, 3 picks to pay 100. It cost me 20 to play, and I win 100, 5-1.
There it
Not
is.
bad. Y'all go check out Prize Picks, man. Download the app. Use the promo code War Eagle, all caps, one word. Play along with us up to $100 match, 100% match up to $100. Can't beat it. Prize
If
picks.
you pick 5, so if you said if you pick 5 and get them all, you get 5 times your money.
Oh no, that's 3.
3.
Yeah. I'll do. We'll keep going. I'll see how much 5 pays.
Yeah, it's a good little system there. You can get a lot of bang for your buck.
Oh, Aaron Rodgers. Let's see. Dude, it's 10-1.
If you do 5,
Yeah. $20 play wins $200. And again, this is more or less for Matt Ryan, Russell Wilson, Justin Herbert, Aaron Rodgers, Jacoby Brissett, or college guys. I just pulled these up because it was the first thing that showed. So yeah, 10-1 for 5.
the one that looks like a I don't know. What do I know? Looks like a gimme is Anthony Richardson, 227 more or less passing yards than Missouri. I would go less. He's not been that great, and Missouri's defense clearly isn't that bad. Like, that seems like he's going to go less than that. Anyway, that's just one that stuck out.
He's a difficult guy to read because I think he had 450-something passing yards just against Tennessee.
Yeah.
He had one game that he had in like the other 3 combined, basically. So, you don't need to speak with him.
I would personally put the more or less for Tank Bigsby rushing yards. I'm just going to throw this out there. Let's talk about it. Tank Bigsby at 42.5 against Georgia. I'd go under.
That's right at the average, isn't it?
That's sad.
But I mean, against Georgia,
what
dude,
is this?
And with Brandon Council running his mouth, I don't know that Auburn will score.
No Jalen Carter, though, for Georgia, right? I mean, that's arguably the best player on the roster.
They might be without Smile, however you say his name, Munden.
I remember Smile.
Yeah.
He's been real good for them.
T-Will wanted him.
Yeah, everybody. He was the man.
They might be saving these guys for bigger games. I don't know.
What?
I'm just kidding. Jason.
What's the number?
Waiting for homecoming. That I threw out.
Yeah, what's the tank? Well, yeah, what was your number?
I threw out 42.5.
God, I'm going to take the over. I mean, at some point, something. I mean, Robbie's doing so many things right now. At some point, the focus is going to be solely on him on a play, and Tank's going to break loose. And I keep saying it every week. It's going to have to happen sooner or later.
He's just not the big home run threat that I thought he was.
No,
he did have a big run in the fourth quarter on that last drive. Tank did. And then the interception happened. But his average this year, counting Mercer where he had 147, is actually 65 yards per game.
So depressing.
It is, isn't it?
Tank big. I mean, to have a guy that's got that kind of ability that and I'll give Tank credit from watching him this year. I think his attitude is very different. Like, I was talking to people this summer, and we wrote about it. Saw him at media days in Atlanta. He's matured a lot. And I give him a little bit of credit. I don't see a ton of bad body language from him. I mean, even on runs that are, the guy could be really pissed, and even on runs that aren't happening, whatever. He gets up, throws the ball, goes to the next play. I mean, he's frustrated. He gets frustrated on the sidelines. I've seen some of that, and that's to be expected. But I don't see a ton of bad body language. It could be worse, considering a player like him that comes back and is literally has nowhere to run. It could be worse with him.
What's interesting was Tank's calling card was kind of the fact that he can break tackles and get yards after contact. Well, who did that in the LSU game? Jarquez Hunter. So everybody kind of looked at Jarquez as sort of the speedier guy, but now he's running over people and breaking tackles, just as good as Tank has been.
I've actually pitched the question: who's the better running back? And if it's even a debate, is it a debate?
I don't think it is.
You don't even think it's close?
No. I mean, Jarquez had a good game, but if you go back and look, that's like his first good game against quality competition, like at Auburn. I mean, he hasn't. I mean, he had a good game, but I still, all things being equal, give me Tank all day.
Yeah, I would say that too. Yeah, me too. I'm not ready to crown him number one.
Yeah.
But I think it's a discussion.
I was trying to look up Tank. I mean, it's just his numbers. Yeah, I mean, he had 164 yards against South Carolina last year. And again, against Power 5 competition,
Wow.
that's it. I mean, Ole Miss, he had 140.
Who are you talking about? Tank?
Tank, but I mean, really, like this is how bad that lineup. I mean, you go back to last year, he had 27 against LSU, 28 against Georgia, 68 against Arkansas. Big game against Ole Miss with 140. Then he came back and had 70 against A&M, 41 against Mississippi State, 164 against South Carolina, 63 against Bama, 96 against Houston. He had a good game there. And then you look at the three-game Missouri, Penn State, and LSU this year, nothing. I mean, it's just like against Power 5 competition, Auburn cannot run the football, straight up.
Knowing that Auburn's struggling to run the football and knowing all that, what would you say is a appropriate average carries per game for Tank? What would y'all say? And I'll tell you what it is.
Well, the only thing I think they should do more of is I think he should get more carries, and I don't understand him and Jarquez splitting carries. I mean, you're not running the ball 50 times. I don't really get why you're splitting those carries up. Tank's a guy that should get 90% of the carries, if not more, and you hope that you break one. So I don't know what his carries is. Right? Are you talking about this season, Cole? Or
Yeah, I got his this season average for carries per game. Right
My number one running back would average 20 carries a game.
Right now, he is averaging
12,
just under 14, so 13.8.
It's not enough.
Carries. That doesn't count catches, and he's got some catches too. But
and that goes to splitting. It's not them not running. I still get that question on
how much is Jarquez averaging. How many is Jarquez averaging?
Give me one.
So let's see how many of those top two running backs are averaging per game, and what the split is.
Yeah, it's going to be around
Many
6 or
Donald's
7.
families.
probably 6 or 7, something like that at the most.
So around 20. And Tank's getting 65%.
Yeah, 6.8. So just
So
about
7 plus 13 of Tank's. That's 20 carries a game they're giving to the running backs, the top two running backs. And Tank's getting 65% of them.
Yep.
I don't get it. Tank's literally, I mean, Tank, we know, there's no question. Tank is one of the best at breaking tackles in college football. Like he was last year, he was this year. You know that because the line doesn't block and he still gets yards. Like it's just not even in question. And so you know you have the struggles, and why sure Tank has all those carries is just it's beyond me. It blows my mind.
I'll tell you what was interesting to me. I had a good conversation, and I was actually where I was standing on the field. All the recruits piled onto the field because that's just what the atmosphere was. I mean, it was like we got to be into this. You know, they didn't want to sit in the stands anymore. If they had the option to be on the field, they were going to be there, and they all had their shakers and whatnot. And I was standing next to 2024 receiver from Phoenix City, Cameron Coleman, who is definitely rising in the ranks right now, and talked to him a good while. And he mentioned to me, you know, man, I really love Auburn's offense. They throw it a lot. I was going, you know what? They do. They do throw it a lot. That's crazy to me. I'm of the opinion that Jarquez Hunter does need some carries. Maybe not as many, you know, cutting into Tanks, but I think they just need to run the ball more, personally, even with the offensive line. So I was like, you're right. They do throw the ball probably 70% of the time.
And you know what? I almost, I would say 90% of the turnovers Auburn's committed this year has been a result of a quarterback interception or fumble. Like how many? Yep. The turnovers is what's killing Auburn's offense. Has all season.
Yeah.
And it's not coming through the running game.
Mm-mm. You're right.
All right. Auburn, Georgia. Minus 30. Over and under 49.5, according to Zach in the back.
Which, just think about that. Over and under 49.5, the spread's 30. So they're predicting like a 42-7. That's the kind of beatdown that we're not like a 30 and it's going to be, Georgia's going to score 50. I mean, they're like, well, Auburn's really not going to score. So it's really just how many points is Georgia going to score, and then we'll make the spread about that. I don't know. Part of me thinks another week of Robbie Ashford getting all the reps. Is it possible to have a little bit more in the offense? But boy, it's hard to expect much. First road game, first road start for Robbie in his career. It's hard to imagine them going out and scoring more than 14 points. It's just, even if they don't turn it over, even if they play pretty clean, it's hard to imagine them going over 14 points. And we know that they shoot themselves in the foot. Maybe they only make one turnover, have a few penalties, but it's hard to imagine them scoring more than 14. They haven't scored more than 10 in Athens since 2009. Generally, when they go to Athens, it's a beatdown. It's just an absolute. 2009 is the last time they went there, and it was somewhat competitive. That was I don't know if people remember that game. That was Auburn had a chance in that game. Chris Todd threw to Mario Fannin, like right at the goal line, and Fannin got jacked. It was incomplete on fourth down.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, really, the past 5 times it's just been absolute beatdowns. So it's hard to not think it doesn't turn into another 37-6 game. I mean, there's nothing. Again, it's like we talk about this. We are in this balance of trying to be optimistic, but there's just no real evidence to point to say, here's why Auburn can, with 5 minutes in the third quarter, is Auburn in this football game? I don't there's nothing I could point to during the game. I mean, there's just.
I'll start it off, man. I got Georgia 41-10. Ooh. I've got Auburn scoring maybe late. Basically, when the game's out of reach, I don't think Auburn's going to score at all. Maybe a field goal against Georgia's first team. I just don't see it happening. I think it's going to be over by halftime.
And it was 2 years ago, right? I mean, didn't they go in there and it was just an absolute? Wasn't Bo just running for his life 2 years ago?
It was that was the worst loss I've ever seen.
It was bad.
And do you remember how deadly Georgia controlled the line of scrimmage last year in Jordan-Hare? That was the second worst loss I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's like there's one game every year where the offensive line just misses every assignment in pass protection, and that was the one for Auburn this year. It was Penn State.
And you hope Robbie Ashford comes out of there only a little gimpy.
I was supposed to say in one piece.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's going to be. He's going to be running for his life. He's going to be, and he might have a game of total yardage. Just he might have a. You might look at his numbers and go, hey, not bad, just because running and throwing. He could end up just sort of having to do a lot. He's going to be beat up after this game.
Who's going to throw in a prediction?
All right,
go ahead, Keith.
All right, I'll say 31 Georgia, 13 Auburn. Georgia the last 2 weeks, after playing great against Oregon and then playing great against South Carolina, Georgia's kind of come back down to earth a little bit. Now, obviously, Kent State and Missouri aren't the marquee names that Georgia would get up for, but Missouri was an SEC game, and quite frankly, they could have very easily lost that game. Okay, there was a fourth down conversion where somebody false started and the officials missed it, and Georgia converted and scored a touchdown, I think, to take the lead. So Georgia sort of has done a little backtracking, and Stetson Bennett's coming off arguably his worst game in a long time. They're starting to get a little bit of the injury bug as well. Jalen Carter not playing, I think, is significant. I still don't think Auburn has too much of a chance to win, but I think it could be a game that's fairly competitive. So 31-13, I will say, with a big player too from Ashford, although he's going to be, B.J. Ojulari's a good edge rusher, but I'm not sure he's Nolan Smith, Cole. I mean, you can answer that question. So he's going to be running a lot, but he can make some plays, and I could see him busting one. So 31-13.
Zach, sorry, I'm just.
No, Zach's
really optimistic. Zach in the back, he's super optimistic about this game.
I'm not disagreeing with him at all.
Zach says 52-13 Georgia.
You're giving them too much credit, Zach.
Oh my gosh.
There's
They
there's
put
one
50.
there's one big thing I'm looking at here, and I'm not saying my prediction is Georgia wins by a couple touchdowns. I mean my score prediction I think will be 28-7. I think it'll be a low scoring game. I think Auburn's defense secondary is good enough to keep it a low scoring game, and Stetson Bennett might struggle. You know the receivers are sort of. I think A.D. Mitchell was out last week. Big receiver for them, might still be a little bit banged up. That's another thing. The fact that Georgia has only gotten 5 sacks as a team is wild to me. I would have never expected that stat. And if you have a guy like Robbie Ashford who can get away from pressure at times, maybe that's something that could keep Auburn in it longer than what we think. But I'll go 28-7 and say low scoring but never close kind of game.
Yeah, never close. Meaning you never feel like Auburn's,
No, there's never a point where you feel like Auburn's got any momentum.
Yeah, that's the only thing I'm curious to see, and I don't think Auburn wins this game. I don't know what kind of set of circumstances would have to happen for Auburn to be competitive. More on Georgia's side, it is curious. I don't follow them week in and week out, so I don't know. But it is interesting the way that Missouri game went, and it is interesting some of the. Cole, I was looking up some of that stuff earlier this week too. Like some of their defensive stats, I'm expecting to see. They're 1-2 in the nation. And they're good. They're top 20, top 25, but they're not. They weren't like I'm looking up whether it's tackles for loss or whatever, and they're like maybe 18th or 20th, and that's good. But for them, it's not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 like they normally are. So I am interested to see if what happened against Missouri was that just a fluke, or is there some kind of chink with them? Not that I don't know. Not that Auburn could take advantage of it. But, I mean, it's more interesting on the Georgia side to see, like, was last week just some fluky thing or, we could see. I mean, is there actually something on film that that's an issue with them that Auburn actually, could somehow take advantage of to somewhat keep it close in the first half? I don't know.
Pass rush. That's why Brady Cook, he was – able to extend plays and find guys open on almost scramble routes most of the time.
Yeah.
That was the thing. So
I think it's an interesting game for Ashford. Just because you start to think about, we don't know what the future is going to hold. Look, coaching change, court transfers. I have no idea who's going to be in that quarterback room in the spring. No clue.
No.
But, I mean, if Robbie, if he keeps playing and he's a guy that if he keeps playing and stays the guy, he could want to stick around. He might not want to leave Auburn if he comes. He's home. So in that regard, I'm curious to see his development and see if he can kind of make some strides because he could be a guy that sticks around in the spring. And so you want to start looking at him and seeing little flashes of brilliance from him. This will be an interesting game just to see. Hey, you're super raw still, but like, what does it look like? Robbie Ashford against elite defense. What does that look like?
Yeah.
Is it a total disaster, or does he show some things where you're like, huh? The same way Bo did. Bo would show those flashes. So, Anything else?
What was your score, Justin?
Oh, probably. I was gonna say maybe 31-10, Georgia, which would make Auburn covering, but.
That's the first time Auburn's covered this year.
They haven't yet, yeah.
Zach, so y'all are taking the points. Zach and I are giving. Me and Zach think it's going to be a blowout.
Yeah, it very well could be, but like there's the only part of me that's saying not is it's one of those games where everybody is so dismissive about it that it's like one of those games where you're like, Georgia did almost just lose to Missouri. Like that did happen. And so you're wondering if are we being too dismissive of it? Are we being a 30-point spread, man? That's embarrassing for Auburn. That's embarrassing. I mean, that's pitiful. But we'll see how it goes. I guess be at auburnlive.com on Friday, big day of recruiting news and war room, and can't wait to read what Rob's got to say. It's gonna be I think that's gonna be interesting. Anything else, Keith, you want to add before we go?
No, but I was just thinking while you were talking about Robbie Ashford, I thought, oh my God, this thought just popped into my head. One way or another, he might be playing for Hugh Freeze next year.
Yeah.
I could see that happening. You know what I mean?
Oh, no doubt.
You know, it does. If Freeze isn't Auburn's coach, does he go after? Or, well, you can't go after a guy. You know what I mean? They got to be in the portal first, but supposedly.
Oh, yeah.
I got to tell you, I just my final thought is I do think Robbie has made unbelievable strides, and that's a guy I'm really pulling for. And he showed a lot of guts last week. He showed a lot of courage, and a lot of great football. And unfortunately, he put the ball on the ground that one play inside the red zone that really cost Auburn. But I thought overall, it's something you can build on as a quarterback, as an offense, as a team. The schedule just is not favorable right now, especially with the overall talent that Auburn has. But I like where Robbie's headed, and in a loss, I thought he did. What are you laughing at? I thought he did great.
No, he did. I'm thinking like this is literally what we said about Bo Nix against like Oregon in his first year. I mean, it's the same. Super athletic, made some plays. Boy, you could see the potential. It's the same conversation. And who knows?
But Justin, maybe we were right about Bo Nix because he at last check he was leading the country in completion percentage. It just took a while to get there.
Yeah. Took a while to get there. It's just we'll see. All right, let's get out of here. AuburnLive.com. Go subscribe, 50% off. Be a part of the community. Appreciate Keith, Cole, Jeffrey joining us. Hope everybody has an awesome weekend, and we'll catch everybody next week to talk about this one and Ole Miss and maybe a coaching change. Who knows? All right, everybody. We'll see you.